October 2003. An unfamiliar spirit fills the air in Liberia today. It is a spirit long forgotten in this war-torn country. Hope.
I'm happy that we get total peace, that peace has been restored on this land.
Businessman Judy Bryant returns to his country to be inaugurated as head of a new transitional government, ending years of civil war.
I'm very happy for this occasion. For long we have been suffering, and today we have a new chairman that will steer the affairs of state.
We are so happy that Julius Bryant has been inducted into office, because for 14 years we suffered under the Taylor administration. So we thank God that today we got a new president.
We gather here today to celebrate the beginning of the end of civil conflict in our country. My people, the war is over. Never again.
Three months earlier, the streets of Liberia's capital city, Monrovia, had been a battlefield.
What happened in Monrovia surpassed all of the other terrible ordeals that happened.
In the center of it all stood one man, Liberia's president, Charles Taylor. Since 1989, he had waged war on his own country. Libyan-trained and American-educated, he had emerged declaring he would liberate his nation from a decade of dictatorship.
This time, we seek to get our real independence.
In his angry speeches, it was often hard to tell promise from threat.
You Liberian people, I'm telling you today, those at home and abroad, Charles Taylor is only the mechanism for what you want.
What they got was a brutal warlord whose army acted more like thugs than soldiers. He forcibly recruited children and used murder as a tool of statecraft.
Taylor killed my unborn mother. Taylor killed my son and butchered him. Taylor killed my sister who was in the 8th grade I was sponsoring. They used an iron, iron on the forehead of the girl, and then beat it down until it went through her, and she remained on the iron.
Taylor replaced the rule of law with fear and terror. He plundered the country's natural resources, amassing a fortune said to be in the billions. The people of Liberia plummeted into abject poverty. Outside Liberia, Taylor armed terror groups in neighboring Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Ivory Coast, destabilizing the region. In 1999, Taylor's stranglehold on the country was challenged by the rebel group LURD, Liberians United for Reconciliation and Democracy. They proved every bit as ruthless. Thousands of civilians fled from their homes or were killed. Entire villages were destroyed. The 4-year battle came to a head in the summer of 2003. LURD forces reached Monrovia.
It was a ferocious fight.
Taylor resorted to his old tactics: fear and intimidation.
They are terrorists, they are murderers. They are not going to escape justice. A massive hunt will begin all over the city. And if they are found, they will be punished.
Unspeakable atrocities were unleashed on the city's population.
When the Liberia forces came, they went and did a lot of shooting, looted people, raped women. But then the Taylor forces came at last. When they got there, they too make it worse. They went in the houses of the people, break into our homes, shoot people, kill innocent people, do all lot of things.
They jumped over the wall. We just stayed quiet, laid on the floor. Because I knew if they got in, we would have been raped, everything would have been gone.
They rape all the women.
Who people now?
The government forces.
Okay.
They went out, they rape all the women. And they took everybody money away. And they put everybody on a gunpoint. They took everything.
And you were there yourself?
Yes, I was there. I was present when they were doing it out there. I said, never for the last.
Okay.
My name is Mata Small.
All right.
From the southeast, another rebel faction, Model, Movement for Democracy in Liberia, advanced toward Monrovia. The war became an international story. Liberians were desperate.
Most Liberians like me just said that no one in their right mind will allow this to happen. And not only with the Liberians, but also we thought that the international community will also not sit by and allow this to happen.
Expectations fell on the United States because of its long-standing ties to Liberia. But with forces in Iraq and Afghanistan and the memory of Somalia still vivid, putting American troops in harm's way was not a realistic option. Instead, the U.S. joined a multilateral effort to broker a deal to stop the fighting.
President Bush spoke out very clearly that a condition of active American participation in this process was the departure of Charles Taylor, and he very clearly called for that.
In order for there to be peace and stability in Liberia, Charles Taylor needs to leave now.
The important thing here is for international peacekeepers to come to Liberia as quickly as possible if I'm going to step down from office.
It was a stalemate. Without the intervention of peacekeeping forces, Charles Taylor refused to leave.
But to where I was at, there was a mortar keep falling there. Right in front of me, the mortar hit or something and killed 16 persons in my presence. And we took the body in front of the U.S. Embassy.
The bodies sent a chilling message the international community could not ignore.
Take your time now. Take your time. Have it, man.
The pile of bodies before the United States Embassy. People around these bodies imploring the United States and the rest of the world to come to the rescue of the Liberian people before they would all be decimated.
I want to let the government know, the law rebels to understand that the people are continuing to die. And I want to blame America for what has occurred yesterday.
That was a very, very powerful moment here. Seeing people pile up their dead, pile up their loved ones in front of the gates of the U.S. Embassy, and Marines watching from behind their bulletproof windows.
A group of West African states finally stepped forward. 700 Nigerian peacekeeping forces were deployed to Liberia. The U.S. sent 3 warships, positioning them off Monrovia's coast. And with that, the fighting stopped. Taylor now had no choice but to go.
I did not want to leave this country. I can say I am being forced into exile by the world's superpower.
On August 11, 2003, Charles Taylor finally left his country for asylum in Nigeria. Since Taylor had arrived on the scene in 1989, 250,000 Liberians had lost their lives to violence and starvation. Another 1 million of his people had been displaced from their homes and villages.
I will always remember you wherever I am. And I say to you, God willing, I will be back.
War-weary, Liberians wondered if this was truly a final farewell.
A comprehensive peace agreement to end the 14-year protracted civil war in Liberia was signed yesterday after over 2 months of peace talks.
The peace agreement created a coalition between the two rebel factions, Lurd and Model, and members of Taylor's former administration. This new interim government would run the country for the next 2 years until free elections could be held in 2005.
The CPA is a comprehensive peace accord which was signed in Accra, Ghana. It is the framework that this country is going to use to move from this period to elections.
September 2003. UNMIL, the United Nations mission in Liberia, arrives on the ground. With a troop force that will eventually grow to 15,000, UNMIL will guarantee the ceasefire and coordinate humanitarian aid. At its head is Jacques Klein, a retired U.S. general with a long career in foreign service.
We are the guests of the government with a very clear mandate, and that mandate is largely in the security sector. So it'll be a real UN peacekeeping mission.
Security here now is everything, but that means serious demilitarization, where every rifle, every machine gun is taken away.
UNMIL will have to formulate a strategy for disarming the combatants. Guns must first be collected in Monrovia. As troop strength grows, UNMIL will move into the countryside, where armed units still menace the civilian population.
In the hinterland, you go outside Monrovia and the whole country is carved up among armed groups.
Freedom, freedom, freedom. No, there's no problem.
Guns continue to be out there in the hands of young men and women who are very easy to inflame.
Of the 40 to 50,000 ex-combatants, 70% of them are under the age of 18.
And some of them, especially the smaller boys, that you're talking about, the 12-year-olds, the 13-year-olds, I mean, they're so stoned and out of it, they still think the war's on half the time. The last time I went up to Bunga, we had the little soldiers were still talking about if they catch Charles Taylor, even though he's out of the country, we'll eat his heart, we'll do this. I mean, they're talking that nonsense still.
A lot of the guys that you see are fighting, the child soldiers and some of those guys that are fighting, they are simply fighting not because they have any political reasons for fighting, but because they found themselves destituted and society seems not to have any mechanism for salvaging their hopes. And so the only way out is to revert to the AK-47, which they will use as a basis for survival.
Liberian society will have to reabsorb an entire generation of children who can operate submachine guns but cannot write their names.
Were you fighting?
Yeah.
Which of the groups were you fighting with?
Army division.
Army division?
Yeah.
The government troops?
Yeah, la government troops.
I'm fighting for Law Forces.
Army division, 2nd brigade.
This time round, it is absolutely critical that the international community stays the course, that we make as much noise as possible around the world to find the resources, and that we make the Liberian as a test case of our resolve to get after the guns in the West African region, because that's the key.
With the countryside still unstable, UNMIL's first humanitarian task focuses on the large numbers of people who fled to Monrovia during the war.
When we arrived, we found 300,000 people here. Displaced, living in buildings, living in schools, in clinics, in the stadium, wherever.
Well, very difficult when it comes to, the day-to-day life, okay? They have a problem with health, okay? Apart from food shortages.
Today we can't eat. I bought my baby for hungry, my daughter died. I don't get food.
The poor lose everything, and they are looking out to UN to help them, to get them back home.
It's hard to imagine, for someone who hasn't been there, the amount of destruction and devastation that the Civil War brought to Liberia, which had been one of the most economically advanced and relatively well-off countries in Africa.
The dilapidated buildings of downtown Monrovia once stood as symbols of Liberia's prosperity. Liberia had been a booming center of commerce, employing thousands in the timber, rubber, and iron ore industries. But its success was built on the domination of a ruling elite. The descendants of freed American slaves who had come to Africa determined to create their own country. They founded the Republic of Liberia in 1847 with the support of the U.S. government. Just 5% of the population, these Americo-Liberians forced the local tribes into servitude. After a century and a half of oppression, long simmering tensions erupted. In April 1980, Samuel K. Doe, an indigenous master sergeant with an 8th grade education, led a military coup. Doe destroyed the old caste system, but along with it, the nation's institutions, its prosperity, and any semblance of order. Liberia descended into a void, and into it marched Charles Taylor.
This country lost almost everything: human resources, devastation of the economy, everything, nothing.
We're so low we can't go any further. We have hit rock bottom. We had 300,000 perhaps killed. We had over 1 million people displaced or refugees. How rock bottom can you get in that?
We're in the city here of Monrovia of 1 million people without running water and without electricity. A city with no sewage system. It was built 30 years ago for a city of 250,000. It's totally broken down. 85% unemployment, highest child mortality rate in the world. The United Nations Development Program has an index every year where they measure development in every country. The country at the bottom of the list this year is Sierra Leone. It's 177th. Liberia is not on the list because there's nothing to measure. So I'm telling my people, look, we have to work to get to the bottom of the list next year. So at least we're on the damn list. So there's something to measure.
Two months after Charles Taylor's departure, Judy Bryant is inaugurated chairman of Liberia's transitional 2-year government. It is a new beginning for the country, a moment filled with expectation.
I, Charles Judy Bryant,
Do solemnly swear.
do solemnly swear
The government has to know that they have to be committed to develop this country.
This country is for everybody, not just for a handful of people.
If no government before ours has served you well, this government will.
Liberians have heard the pledges before.
Top priority will be given to education, health care, and food security. There will be zero tolerance for corruption in this administration. Business as usual ends now. Let me caution you.
The challenge is great. Bryant inherits a national treasury looted under Charles Taylor. And now he'll have to lead a fragile coalition of former enemies.
And bless Liberia.
Still, the very existence of a new government provides a moment of great optimism for Liberians.
I thank all of you for your support. Liberia
In February 2004, 4 months after his inauguration, Judy Bryant pleads Liberia's case to an international donor community.
We are inspired and resolved and determined to rebuild Liberia. I thank you.
Bryant is well aware that prospective donors expect him to break Liberia's long cycle of government corruption and mismanagement.
It is first and foremost the responsibility of the people of Liberia to turn their backs on violence and sustain the peace process.
On behalf of President Bush, I can assure you of America's strong commitment to work with you as together we help the people of Liberia seize what might well be their last best chance for peace, prosperity, and democracy. Thank you very much.
In the end, $500 million is pledged for the reconstruction effort, including $200 million by the United States. It will be given to the UN mission in Liberia, UNMIL, who will immediately become the country's largest financial resource. By April, UNMIL has a growing troop presence in Liberia's 15 counties and is ready to begin a program they call DDRR.
All of y'all need to disarm, move to the cantonment site. They will demobilize you.
DD stands for disarm and demobilize. Guns will be collected and fighting units disbanded. The RR refers to rehabilitation and reintegration.
Yes, I have come here to tell the world that I am ready to disarm. Actually, I'm a student, but because of the war, I left school and I want to live in a peace community.
UNMIL has created a program of economic incentives. Each fighter is eligible to receive $150 in return for surrendering his weapon and undergoing 1 week of psychological counseling. Later, he will be entitled to a second $150 if he returns to his home village. Children receive $300 for returning to their families.
So, what do you want to do in future?
Me?
Yeah.
I want to go to school.
Want to go to school?
Yeah.
And do what? And become what?
Mm-hmm.
After school, what do you want to do?
After school, I want to learn trade.
Want to learn trade?
Yeah.
What trade?
I want to learn carpentry.
Carpentry?
Yeah.
These ex-combatants must find new lives. UNMIL has promised to help.
I want to welcome you to UNMIL Radio on 91.5 FM. With
85% illiteracy, the radio becomes a key tool in the DDRR campaign.
You ex-combatants, the Liberian people are prepared to forgive you.
Are you also prepared to give up your attitude of war? To become a good citizen, give your arms to all males. Go to school, get married, find a job, or do something worthwhile.
Monrovia is beginning to show signs of a fitful recovery. Still, there is only minimal electricity from diesel generators. The city and its environs still harbor the displaced. The Ducor, a former five-star hotel, has become a temporary shelter. Outside Monrovia, camps are still filled with people waiting to go home. People are finding work wherever they can.
I am a painter and a masoner. I did masonry because I was not afforded the opportunity to finish my high school because of the senseless war. I'm thankful to God that I got this job. It's a bit hard for me now because I have a lot of families I have to take care of. Right now, I'm taking care of 15 persons. In this house, I have my uncle, and then I have my grandmother. I have my sister, she's here, my niece, and my nephews, the small ones, and also my other niece. We are not from a rich family, but we were a little bit better off before the war came to Liberia, and the war have forced us to where we are now. And some people say, Tina, why don't you take a boyfriend? I said, no, I don't want it. I got a task ahead of me. I need to do what I'm doing in order to get me to where I want to be.
And this is Press Talk, giving you an intuition in the news.
Forced underground or into exile during the Charles Taylor years, a new generation of political activists has emerged.
In the new Liberia that we think that we are building, we must make sure that public officials are clean.
Our generation, this generation, has been presented with a historic opportunity, an opportunity to recreate the Liberian state. And I think that's a challenge we have to take seriously.
It's not guilty until it's proven.
Freedom of the press, non-existent under Taylor, has returned. Journalists have embraced their role as political watchdogs.
I've written pretty close to 9 articles since I returned to Liberia. We are doing everything possible to ensuring that our voices are heard as they ought to be.
Horizontal elbow, move. Horizontal elbow, move.
International law enforcement authorities have set out to create something new in Liberia: honest cops.
We're rebuilding the whole police force. We assumed that Taylor's police force were totally corrupt. At the rate we're going, we should have about 1,900 by the time of the election. That's the goal.
Y'all see, you guys been around here and lived here all your life. You've seen police officers do illegal acts. That's why you guys are here to say, well, you know what, I'm gonna make a change and I'm gonna be a leader.
A year after the war's end, a safer Liberia celebrates its first year of peace in recent memory.
I can't remember the last time I saw us gather here like this to celebrate our independence day. When you consider where we were exactly 1 year ago and where we are today, we are truly blessed.
At least we can rest. We can rest, sleep and rest because of you people are here. They unmade it. We can rest, my people, we can rest a little bit. Oh!
One by one, as counties are officially declared safe, UNMIL begins to send the country's hundreds of thousands of IDPs, internally displaced persons, home.
Last year, during the worst moments of the war,
returning home seemed both an improbable and distant dream.
The UN provides transportation, a starter kit, and a small cash allowance. Many have not seen their town or village for years.
We're just coming back. Right now we have almost 500 plus, but we should be more than that. But some are still up.
I fled from the war the year 2002. I went to Guinea with my family. I just came about 1 month ago to put up a structure. Yeah, so that way I left my wife, my 4 children. I came to prepare somewhere for us to be.
For food, right now, no way. So the only way sometimes we get food, we get on the river. This is the river bend, Simple River. And sometimes we do some fishing, and after that, we take it to the market, and we try to live out of that. Before we have it, they say food basket for Liberia. This is Lofa County, food basket for Liberia. So you have to start making plans. If we get seeds, we make our farm. As soon as we receive the assistance, we are ready.
We need quarters, we need hooks, we need a whole bunch because the whole time, everybody want to make fun. So we are appealing to the NGOs as a whole to assist us.
NGOs, non-governmental organizations like the Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, and Oxfam are on the ground providing support to the returnees. Though the aid helps, the needs are overwhelming.
There's a distribution of non-food items. We have 3 mats, 3 blankets, 1 kitchen set, a used clothes, 1 kilo soap for 1 family.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, I decided to plan to make garden for myself. I need all that.
No tools.
Yeah, but nothing.
That is in next year program. We are trying to do this next year.
But you go there, all the area was burned down, broken. I think you can see the structure that here. You see the school campus there, you feel sorry for no school. It was a high school with a dormitory. But this time, it's nothing.
For 14 years, most of these kids could not go to school. They had to run in the bush, run away from fighters, look for means of survival.
The part of my body. My eyes have to see, my ears have to hear, my nose has to smell, my tongue is to taste.
You know, they have been staying from school so long, their parents have been keeping them from school since the war. In the class, sometimes you see 12 years, old child in the K1.
What's your class?
6th grade.
You're in the 6th grade?
Yeah.
How old are you now?
18 years.
18 years old.
Judy Bryant has promised that education will be a priority for his government. Yet schools are slow to be repaired, and funding for even the most basic needs is not being provided.
Okay. I'll give you something else, huh? To help you, huh?
From the 330 clinics and health centers around the country, less than 1/3 of them have been rehabilitated. The health indicators have gone from bad to worse. The prevalence rate of HIV/AIDS continues to increase. So a lot more needs to be done.
Population-wise, we actually cater between 600 to 700,000 population. I'm a general surgeon, I'm an ophthalmologist. I have to end up doing gynecological surgeries, orthopedic surgeries, because these people cannot go anywhere. The only stopping point where they know is Phoebe Hospital.
95% of what goes on in health in this country is from the donors through the NGOs. People were waiting to see some success rate in a disarmament. Okay, thank God we have achieved that. But the donor funding is slow to come in, and the government's disbursement to the health sector is almost inexistent.
You know, when you come out of 15 years of crisis, it takes time, my friend. When peace comes, people are more resilient and they're more eager for everything. And the bad thing is that you don't have the resources to satisfy everything at the same time.
Our budget in the FY 2005 Liberian government budget is $80 million, 1/10 of what it should be.
We are from various ministries. I particularly am from public work.
I'm from the General Auditing Office. The government gave us these checks to cash it. A lot of people standing here to cash it one check in the small building. Do you think it's possible? It's not possible. But they allow us to come and suffer here the whole day.
No money, we're waiting for the money.
Today, maybe 3 days come here. For me, sir, to enter that place there, it's very hard to enter there.
Only one bank. Only one bank. We need to decentralize these things. Good governance is completely lacking. That's our problem.
If civil servants in any country are going to have unrest, any country in the world, if people don't get paid.
Now today, if you can see, here is tension packed. Here is tension packed. I'm afraid that anything could erupt here anytime.
Any teacher, any civil servant, this is the biggest thing. They're not getting their salaries. Government's busy buying four-wheel drive Cherokees.
And the Cherokee Jeep is about $45,000 for one. And you have about 32 cabinet ministers. And every one of them carry one. You just imagine, one of those Jeeps could have paid the teachers alone in this country. They're not many.
Purchasing cars, renting big buildings for government officials is not important. What is important is the interest of the people.
We knew we were going into this government with people of different values, many of whom came to satisfy the desire of paying themselves for taking weapons and getting Charles Taylor out of office. And they came in and said it was payday time.
Sometimes you go to a ministry and an official will be sitting there or a functionary will be sitting there and he has to sign a document and he will tell you, there's no ink in my pen. That's a code word for give me money. Or he will say, knock my belly and make me fart.
You gave the government to three factions who were the warring parties. And they didn't take the ministries of gender or health. They took finance, they took the airport, they took the harbor. Those are the things that make money, that bring income.
Since the new government's inception, there have been reports of bribery, theft, and corruption at Monrovia's port. The result has been price increases on food and gas, and huge losses in government revenues. Secret deals have also allegedly been made involving the country's diamonds, timber, and iron ore.
There hasn't been a sincere effort on the part of the administration to prosecute people for corruption. Because prosecuting people for corruption will mean setting the stage for prosecuting yourself.
I don't think there's any law on the book that says that somebody steal or somebody embezzle, that person should not go to court. All Judy Bryan needs to do is to apply the laws.
Yes, there will be cries of corruption, but I'm not going to condemn anybody on an allegation. If people are corrupt, bring the evidence and we'll prosecute them.
When I see what happened during the Doe administration, during the Taylor administration, and compared to this administration, the only difference that I see now is the change of security. That is about because we have UNMEO on the ground, and UNMEO is providing security.
No drinking water, no quarreling, the citizens suffering from poverty. You go on the highway, there's people sitting in the bush.
no shelter, no food for them to eat. The government runs 65,000 cars. You go to Freeport, the government corrupt everything, $1 million missing. All the government corrupt everything. We're suffering in the country, no food for us to eat, we're suffering.
My dear friends, last night there were disturbances in the red light area of Painesville in Monrovia.
As riots break out on the streets of Monrovia, violence in Liberia becomes an international story once again.
Already, some of the donors are beginning to question if Liberians are really ready to put the violence behind them and work for peace, reconciliation, and reconstruction.
People who are angry, and a lot of people are angry because they see a government in place that is behaving in a very callous manner. Callous because they know the environment within which they are functioning. 85% of the population is unemployed. Massive poverty.
%70 of Liberians are living on less than $1 US per day.
Some people don't have money to go and buy a truckload of sand, so they come here and buy a bag of sand. The people want to send to do that the poor people, they want to do their little renovation because the structure that got damaged during the war. So sell it to them.
We need a sand to sell it to get our daily bread to eat. There's no job. There's no job facility in the country. We fight the war with disarm the army, but up to this time there is no job.
Army went and give us $150 first. Secondly, Army gave us $150 again, which was $300. We tell Army thank you for what is done. But the main plans and purpose that Army told us on the cantonment, they told us that from here you're going to learn the best of trade you want to learn. If you want to learn computer, you want to learn mechanic, you want to learn this, they told us. Now, we went there after, we came back in town, we will go all over, nowhere. There's no training area.
They've been used to arms, and they've been using arms to get money and see as a source of sustenance. The Accra Peace Agreement calls for the building and reactivation and renovation of vocational institutions. They have to be educated, they have to be trained, carpentry, masonry, and other skills, so that they can be able to be sustained. These people are in the streets.
Only very few, they are working, they are enjoying themselves, we have a sermon. The others just waste.
We take away the guns and we say to them, behave as if you've arrived. Talk to me like a civilized person. But I can't, because I know no other way to talk to you but the way I talk. So the mechanism to even resolve the simplest of conflict for most of these young people are not there at all.
We as combatants will make homage to understand that if they not pay us off, then we'll continue our own country here. We don't want to spoil it. So we'll continue to spoil it. We'll spoil it.
If RR does not go, well, then the same people we disarm, the same people we have given hope to, might be tempted to create other security, concerns for us.
I'm no more frightened. I'm no more a fighter. I have been de-traumatized, rehabilitated, and reintegrated.
Yeah, the people rehabilitated us. They talk to us, they persuade us not to take arm again, not to do anything to love one another. What we're here for? We are here to get our second money.
Yeah, we're here for our money. For the second money, $450. Next.
There remains an uneasy coexistence between ex-soldiers and the civilians who suffered terribly at their hands.
large numbers of the people you're dealing with, highly traumatized, guys who committed crimes, serious crimes. And we have decided that in order to keep the peace, even those who committed heinous war crimes must be allowed to live among us.
We have grown up with anger, with hatred, especially for the youth. People say, yeah, we're coming back to Liberia, get out Liberians. But it's not easy like that. Because when you hate, it takes time to love.
In the last months of the transitional government, a dispirited populace begins to re-energize. For the first time in their history, a free and fair election for all Liberians is scheduled to take place. Throughout the country, citizens register to vote in large numbers, many even returning from exile to do so.
What we want to happen now is the election. After the general election, we will see who will get in the driving seat.
I want somebody to come out and bring good image to develop this country. But a lot of politicians, yes, they are coming in. Everybody wants to be president. That's too bad.
There are many political parties in Liberia, and no less than 22 candidates are competing for the presidency. Only a few have the political organization and funds to wage a successful campaign.
What Liberia needs today is a new beginning.
We believe that for these elections, it is peace first and peace last.
The crowded field of political veterans and novices engage in heated public debates, vying to separate themselves from the pack.
Liberians will have to look for a leader who is representative of unity.
Who is capable of managing this country so we have a healthy economic recovery, who understands the issue, who has the experience, the background, and who has the character.
Two candidates emerge as the leading contenders. One is Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf, a Harvard-educated economist and a battle-scarred veteran of Liberian politics for over 30 years.
We have a code of conduct. Anybody who works for the government will have to abide by that code of conduct. And there's a penalty if you violate the public trust through dishonesty or through inefficiency or through human rights abuses. If you do all of those things, you will bear the penalty in accordance with law.
But the unlikely frontrunner flaunts a very different popular appeal.
I want to urge my brothers and sisters for all to nominate George Weah as president.
All the way!
Yeah, because we have tried the politicians since 1847 of the present, and they have failed the Liberian people.
George Weah is scary because George Weah is rich, and actually for poor men. When poor men, their fighting will continue.
George Apang Weah, internationally famous soccer star, Liberia's favorite son.
When the name upon George Weah is mentioned, it's like it cuts across ethnic lines, it cuts across religious lines and other social lines. It magnetizes people.
Analysts debate whether Weah's star power and youth-based support are sufficient to win the 50% of the vote needed for victory on a first ballot. With security out in full force, at last, it is decision day. 3/4 of all registered voters brave heat, rain, and long delays for the chance to choose a new president and Congress. Domestic and international observers monitor over 3,000 polling places throughout the country.
People are being patient, they see the long lines, and it's a very slow process.
Because illiteracy is so widespread, a special ballot is designed containing the name, party symbol, and photograph of each candidate. One inked fingerprint equals one vote. The painstaking process of counting goes on for 2 weeks.
See George Weah. early.
As returns trickle in, it is clear that George Weah is falling well short of the 50% required for a first ballot victory.
So those two people who received the highest number of votes.
The election commissioner announces a runoff between the top 2 vote getters, George Weah and Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf. The press dub it the battle between King George and the Iron Lady.
So I'm not disappointed, I'm excited, I'm enthusiastic, I'm energized.
all of us, as Liberians, we are happy with the results.
I will work for my people. Liberian freedom.
For 2 feverish weeks, the campaigns are in overdrive.
I will not have to learn on the job. I already know the job. I have the lessons of experience. I know the failures, and I know the successes, and I know the approaches we can take to correct the failures.
Will Liberians choose George or Ellen? The populist hero or the seasoned professional? His charisma, her competence. In the end, Liberians speak clearly with their votes.
Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf has received 59.6% and George Weah 40.4%.
In a shocking landslide, winning by more than 150,000 votes, Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf is elected President of Liberia.
With a deep sense of humility and gratitude, I accept the challenge and the mandate to lead our country.
With her momentous victory, Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf becomes the first woman elected head of state in modern African history. Once again, the prayers of Liberians rest with new leadership. Bringing real change and development will require great political will and continued foreign assistance. For now, the international community remains committed, but has demanded a more active role in the new government. Their goal, to end corruption in order to harness the country's great potential.
This is a very fertile country with enormous natural resources. There is no excuse for us being poor. We are poor because of a history of bad governance.
Liberia is one of the richest countries in the world. I can boast of. Because I got gold, I got diamond, I got rubber, I got timber, I got iron ore.
We have 350 miles of coastal waters. We have 600 different species of edible fish in our coastal waters.
We have one of the deepest seaports in the whole of Africa, the free port of Monrovia.
As the people of Liberia wait for economic development of the country's vast resources, they are determined to move forward. Rebuilding will take years. It isn't just a case of schools and jobs and roads.
We have to address our broken institutions. We have to address our broken mindset.
I think all of us have to just get up and see how we can move this country forward. Whether you are a medical doctor, whether you are a nurse, or whether you're in other professions, all of us have to stand up to see how this country moves forward.
Like I said, we have the historic opportunity to recreate the state. And I think that's not something most people have in their lifetime, and we have that opportunity. And I think there's a lot of international goodwill, and there are a large number of decent Liberians, some of whom are abroad, most of whom are here. I think that if we can harness all of those capabilities, we can do wonders. I have no doubts about that.
Mukama o mumagara ganje na manyi ganje gona no mtima gwanje gona haye mama haye mama